Hi there, and welcome to Chimp Chat, a podcast aimed at helping you get the very best from your Mailchimp account. Brought to you by those clever chimps at Chimp Answers, a Mailchimp Pro partner. Mailchimp email marketing is just what we do. We're here on our first episode of Chimp Chat. So it's basically a way of us being able to give back to you some advice, tips and guidance on how to make the most of Mailchimp. My name's Robin Adams. I'm the owner of Chimp Answers, and I've been using Mailchimp for the last 5 years. So actually, probably about 10 years, as it were. So know me know around it. And joining me today is the Mailchimp Supremo, which we've now christened her, the delightful Vicky Glass. Morning, Vicky, or afternoon, even.
Afternoon, Robin.
Exactly. So today we're going to be talking about forms. One of the things that regularly comes up in the group, and certainly for both of us who are using Mailchimp, we know that email marketing is all about data, and one of the best ways to get data into your system and use it are forms on a website. But the problem is, Vicky, that lots of people who use forms unfortunately aren't necessarily doing them the best way, I think would be fair to say. It's one of the common queries and questions we get, isn't it?
Oh, definitely, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so what we've done is we're just going to have a quick chat about some of the things that we've picked up over the years that we use Mailchimp, of kind of like the key things that you need to be aware of when it comes to using forms on your website. All right, so first question that you have, Vicky, or first thing to say, what's your first tip when it comes to kind of like forms on websites?
Oh, that's a tough one. So many things.
Choose from.
First thing I think would be, is this in terms of actually getting people to sign up? It would be how you attract people. So your wording would be the first thing. In terms of getting people to join your newsletter. So you need to give them something, or at least attract them in some way, and not just join my newsletter. You need to dangle something in front of them.
Yeah. The world's a bit different now when it comes to email marketing. You know, a few years ago, you could go, join my newsletter. And people would go, yes, I want to join your newsletter. Unfortunately now, just having a subscribe to my newsletter in the footer of your website isn't really going to cut it. You know, people have got, unfortunately, email marketing has changed. There's a lot more emails flying around. I've spent probably an hour this morning going through inbox and clearing it out because I didn't look at it yesterday. And from that point of view, I'm not going to just sign up to a newsletter for the sake of the newsletter. So probably the first number one thing you need to think of is what's in it for the person who's signing up. Whether it's an incentive or even if it's not an incentive, but just sell the benefits. That's one of the key things. So, a couple of ideas of things that you could do to sell the benefits for a form to get people to sign up.
So I think when on your form, you'd have to tell them what they're going to get. So if you're going to be sending daily tips, then say that. If you're going to be sending freebies in your newsletter, you don't have to offer freebies, but just say you will get freebies. So those sort of things really help, but definitely setting expectations. So don't let people sign up and then they get an email from you daily when you didn't specify that. So,
Especially nowadays with GDPR, one of the things you need to have that transparency when someone signs up. They need to know that when they're signing up, what they're going to get. To be quite frank, it is part of GDPR. You can't say sign up to get this great big document, and then at the end of it, you then start sending them an email every day, and it's like, wait a minute, they didn't agree to that. They agreed to the document, but not to doing it every day. So that's definitely one of the key things that you need to do. So another one that is something that I'm always going on about with all of my clients and everything is I call it tagging for provenance, which sounds very, very highbrow, as it were. But basically what it means is that every time you've got a form on your website, and just for reference, you should probably have more than one form, more than one offer, because obviously, why wouldn't you? If you want people to sign up to your audience and your list, you want to get more, is to make sure that you're tracking where those people are coming from. So let's say, for example, you've got a pop-up on the front page of your website, and in the contact us page, there is a sign-up form that talks about, joining the newsletter or whatever. The pop-up is probably going to have a slightly different message, or it should be if you're using it to incentivize people to sign up, than the form on your contact page. But you want to know when someone signs up, have they signed up from the pop-up or have they signed up from the contact form? And what that means is it allows you to see how each of them is effective, but means you can start tailoring the communication. It's something that we do all the time, isn't it? And it's not just forms. We do it for any type of connection you've got in Mailchimp. In terms of, kind of like track, it's one of the key things we do. Have you got any? Anything?
Oh, yes. Sorry, carry on, Robin. Ask your question.
No, I was going to say, what in terms of tracking those tags? Is there any little tips that you've got of the best ways to actually do that?
I think with tags, people can get slightly carried away because in Mailchimp you get an unlimited number, so people just go, oh, tag freebie, and then they have another freebie. They go tag freebie 2. That makes no sense. So for me, with tags, definitely having a naming convention helps in that sense. So for all your freebies, you could start them with freebie and then the name of the freebie. Or if you're doing, an event or a webinar, you start it with the webinar or event. You start it with that same word and then give an actual description. So yes, people just having tags that don't lead to anywhere is one of the bugbears. So
yeah, couldn't agree. Having that structure so that not just you, but obviously if you're doing this, you want your business to grow, and other people will be coming in and potentially running your account in the future. So as soon as you start tagging, whether it's a form on a website or a pop-up or whatever it is, actually tracking what that tag is and having a name that means something. Yeah, I was in a Mailchimp account a couple of days ago, and they had about 75 tags, and literally they were just words. There was no context. You couldn't tell what those words meant. It's like, I think one of them was subscriber. It's like, why have you got a subscriber? Because aren't they all subscribers?
So, another thing that people forget is that they can use multiple tags in the same form. So people just go one tag, but if you have multiple, that gives you a lot more scope. So you could say everyone that signs up for my freebie will always be tagged freebie, for example, and then you could get more specific and have a specific tag for that freebie. So it gives you more scope when you're emailing people. You can target them better. You can email everyone that's tagged freebie, not just the people that signed up for your freebie in May, for example. But
that's a really, really good point, actually. Trying to make sure that you're not just tagging once. One of the things that we talk about when we work with our customers is that if you've got a page that is selling a particular aspect of your service. So I'm working with, we're working with some real estate agents at the moment, and obviously they've got buyers and sellers. And so they've got a page on their website where you can sign up to their newsletter with an incentive or whatever, but it's on the buyer page, the page that tells them, kind of like, we will help you buy your property, so on and so forth. Now, in that case, you don't just kind of like assign a tag with that form that says this is the kind of like the freebie you're getting and you're signing up to the newsletter or whatever. Because of the page that they're signing up, that they're a buyer, because that's where the form is. And obviously, when you're segmenting your marketplace, and segmenting and relevance is the core to all aspects of successful marketing, you want to make sure that you're able to segment your marketplace. And as you just said, using more than one tag to actually track and identify people is a really, really powerful method of segmenting your database and then obviously being able to target them down the track. So that's a really, really good thing. And then the final tip, and we could have we could quite easily do a couple of hours on these because there's easily, but is focusing on understanding your platform and the type of form. So we're getting a bit technical here, but so what are the key things with regards to this? How would you kind of like advise people in terms of choosing the tool that they're going to use for their website form system?
Oh, that's a good question. I usually start with where is your form going to live? So if it's on your website, then choose a tool that works with your website perfectly. So don't go, oh, I've got a website and I want a Mailchimp form. I'm going to go and find a form on Mailchimp. I've got a website. Now, which tool lets me put a form on my website and it works with Mailchimp? So that's usually where I get people to start. And if you're going to use Mailchimp, nothing wrong with that. Just make sure you're using the right form on Mailchimp. Don't just go, oh, there's an embed form here, or there's a sign-up form that looks vaguely right. I'll go for that. Whereas there are other options that you could explore. Definitely. So it's choosing the best form on the best platform that you're working with.
Yeah, I think that platform thing is really, really, really important. In fact, again, looking at the comments and the questions that regularly come into the Facebook group, they are very much, well, this form isn't working. And always the first question we ask is, well, what platform you've built it on? Is it on WordPress? Is it on Wix? Is it on Squarespace? Have you built it using Mailchimp? There are so many different website platforms out there, and understanding what the platform is kind of like the first thing you need to look at. And then secondly, it's understanding that if you're going to use a form, you need that form system. It's more important that it works on the platform, so WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, than it is that it actually comes from the email program that you're connecting. So obviously we're talking about Mailchimp, but there's obviously lots and lots of different email programs out there, and they've all got form tools. But just because they've got form tools, it doesn't mean they're the right tool for the website platform that you're using. So we regularly recommend that if you're using a WordPress site, you should be looking at something like Gravity Forms or Yikes Easy Forms, are two that we've kind of like quite familiar with. And again, looking at Wix or Squarespace, there are specific tools within their systems that are designed to work from a visual point of view, but then in the back office, you can usually find a way of connecting them up to Mailchimp, and that way you get the best of both worlds. It's really important that, because forms, if they don't work, then you won't get any subscribers.
Yes. And it's also important to test your form. So people that use the Mailchimp embed form, fine, but then they don't actually test it properly to go, oh, actually doesn't work in this case, or it doesn't do this. They don't test it. They just go, I've put a form on my site and that's it. But it's important to test it. So you can always change your form. You're not stuck by the one that you've chosen not to start. So
yes, definitely,
test your form.
Yeah, anything that you put into Mailchimp, you test, and if you haven't done it already, go and do a search on the Chimpanzers website for the Gmail hack, as it were, which basically allows you to test with a Gmail email account. You can test your form multiple times with the same email address, but have different addresses being registered, which means that you've got unlimited tests. I'll make sure that below this we'll share a link to this particular article, because it's the best way to test your account. It's simply without any problem is. So, okay, so those are some of the core things. I mean, there's other things to talk about, so don't ask for too much information.
Yes, that's definitely important.
Yeah.
10 fields later.
Yeah. Nobody wants to spend 20 minutes giving you the details of their inside legs measurement and their kid's favourites fluffy animal or whatever. So just concentrate on the information that you're going to use. And also, one of the things that certainly we always recommend for a number of reasons, and one of them is deliverability. So getting your emails in the inbox is the idea of having an email that's triggered to be automatically sent when someone fills that form. That's really important, isn't it, Vicky?
Yes, very important. I was just working with a client last week where she was manually sending these emails when people signed up. And she was like, I'm sure there's a better way. Help me. I was like, yes, there is a better way. But yes, that first email is important. They're expecting it. They want to hear from you. They've signed up. They want to know that they've actually successfully signed up. So they're going to open it. They're going to click it. So yes, it is the most powerful email you'll probably ever send once they've signed up.
Definitely, and I'm sure that'll be something that we'll talk about in one of the future chats that we have, of how to actually manage that and how to make sure that email is impactful, because there was research that was done by Experian which was said that a welcome email, or the first email that you send, is going to be 4 times more likely to be opened and 7 times more likely to be clicked. So if you want to get interaction and engagement with people, you want to make sure that when someone does something, fills out a form, you have got an automated email that's going right back to them as quickly as possible. So it's automated, because they are going to be expecting that. And when it comes through, they'll go, I know exactly what that's about. If in your situation, Vicky, if someone's sending that email manually, so I could sign up to a list today and then get an email tomorrow, and a lot happens in 24 hours.
Yes, especially when people are signing up for freebies, and then a week later, or even the next day, you send them an email. They go, who is this? what did I sign up for this? What? And they just unsubscribe. So yes, you definitely have to be on the ball for this one.
Oh, definitely. This is one of the things that you really need to pay attention to. So just to cover off that, so if you're just catching up, so first of all, when you're looking at forms, make sure that you're selling the benefits of the form to the person who's signing it up. So don't just write, sign up to my newsletter, because no one will want to do that. Okay. Make sure that you're tracking those forms. So get each form to have some way in Mailchimp of knowing what that form is. So tagged is the obvious way. And then make sure that when you're using the form tool is appropriate for the platform that your website is on, as it were. So don't just go, I'm going to use a Mailchimp tool and put them in my website. There's probably better solutions out there that will work better. And in actual fact, going back to our second point, if you did use a Mailchimp form embedded into a website, you can't actually add a tag to that as part of it. So it's one of the reasons why you're best using one of those other tools. So that will make an awful lot of sense. And obviously, as we just said, make sure that you wrap up your emails and make sure that there is an automated email that's sent every time someone fills the form out. That's really powerful. And we'll talk about this again, talk about deliverability, which actually we're going to mention later in a little bit. But we're going to, again, have a specific kind of like chat about deliverability as well. And that welcome email, that first email is massively important if you want to succeed at email marketing. Cool. Okay, so that's one of the things that we'll do. So if you've got any questions, if you're watching this live, if you've got any questions about forms, then please chuck them in. We'll have a look and be able to pick those up and hopefully give you some advice. But hopefully there's some good tips that you can take away to actually use. All right. Okay, so that's just kind of like covering off the forms and what we want to talk about. A couple of other things that we're going to do regularly. So if you're not used to... oh, great! We've got a question straight away. I like questions. That's good. First session, and we get a question. So the question is: if newsletter sign-up forms are not the best way to get people onto your mailing list, what sort of incentive forms should we be considering? And should they all be on your website, or can you put them in other places? In other words, social media. So, any thoughts on that, Vicky?
I think newsletter sign-up forms are still a good way to get people on your list. It's how you entice them, how you attract them. So rather than just saying sign up for my newsletter, you could say sign up for my newsletter and you will get these things, or I'll be sending you these. So you tell them why they should sign up, give them a reason. And even if you're offering a freebie, you could have an option there to say yes to newsletter or no to newsletter, or even say things like, I want to send me your emails weekly, or actually send me your emails monthly. Give them other options. Give them an option to say to get your emails less frequently. So newsletter sign-up forms are still great. You just need to make sure that you're attracting them properly. You're not just leaving it as sign up to my newsletter. Give them an incentive. Give them a reason to sign up. As for putting it on your website or social media, that's also a good option. So if you've got a Facebook group, and you don't ask the questions at the start for the email address, you could then, when people join your group, have a pinned post or announcement to say, go over here to my newsletter and sign up and you will get a free ebook or something. So you just have it there at the top of your group for when people sign up to your website, to your group, or even on your page, have a pinned post to redirect people to your sign up form. So there are lots of ways.
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, from incentive forms. So I'll just look at some of the ones that we've set up with clients in the past. A classic one for e-commerce businesses is sign up to my audience and get 10% off my first order. 5%, 10%, or get free shipping or whatever. So if you've got an e-commerce store, giving that incentive on their first order is always going to be really, really a great way of encouraging someone to sign up. It's something that I would suggest an awful lot of e-commerce stores use. But that's because it works. People do sign up. If you don't have an e-commerce store, then obviously the other way that you can really leverage and get people to sign up is to give them something in exchange for their email address. Okay, so a phrase that's often used by marketers is a concept, something called a lead magnet. Basically, a lead magnet is a guide. We've talked about guides or a PDF, as it were, which is going to be specifically valuable to the person who is kind of like your potential customer. So, for example, for us, we could quite easily have a light lead magnet that says, the 10 best ways to make the most of Mailchimp forms. Okay, that would be a little PDF. It would only be 2 or 3 pages, but there would be value in it. And people would be prepared to give us their email address in exchange for that. So in terms of the best way to incentivize your customers, have a think about that kind of like that 2 or 3 page document which has got a little bit of information that you know that the person that you're working with, the clients that you want to speak to, they would be interested in getting. Even if even simple things like having a brochure or a price list, people still want to get that information. If you're a printer or whatever, that's one of the things that people will potentially want. So have a think like that. And I agree completely with Vicky. Social media is a great way of generating traffic. You may not necessarily want to put your form in social media. I know that, for example, on Facebook, Mailchimp gives you the option of embedding the form in your Facebook page. I'll be honest, I haven't actually spoken to anyone yet who's been effective at getting sign-ups from their Facebook page from a form actually on it. The best way to do it is to, as you say, basically drive traffic to the page on your website and get them to sign up there. That works much better. Yeah.
Yeah. Just another point on that is more, I'm always in two minds about offering free things offering free things to get people on your list, because then you end up with people just for the freebies. So that's also something to think about when you're offering up incentives, that you need to qualify. You need to make sure that people on there, you can then nurture them, keep them on there for more things, not just I'm here for your freebie and now I'm off. So always think about the journey that your customer is going to go through. This is probably going to advance here for the forms, but yes, think about your customer journey when you're giving out away free stuff for your business.
Definitely, it's part of the fact is that this is just a step from the point where they don't even know you to they think you're the best thing ever, and this is just a step on the journey. So you need to understand what happens after, and if you set your expectations too high or too low, that will have an impact on the journey. So, but just have a think of it. Just turn around, put yourself in the mind of the person that you're speaking, who you want to sign up, and basically say, what is the type of thing that you can give to them that's going to be of value? So hopefully that answered your question. Thanks very much for posting it. And if you have got questions on forms that you want to, then please make a point of adding the question to the bottom of this post and tagging either myself or Vicky Glass on this post, and we'll basically do our best to answer it, or we may even refer to it in a future Chimp Chat session. So thanks for that one. Right, okay. Couple of the things of, how should we say, program notes, we'll call this section, as it were. So, first of all, this is the first of the Chimp Chats that we're planning to do. So there'll be myself and a rotating cast of people from the Chimpverse, as I like to call it. So Vicky will be a regular guest as well. We'll have a number of other people. And if you feel you've got something to say or something to offer, then, please get in touch. The idea is this is going to be a regular half-hour chat every week. So if you've got something valuable that you want to, share with people, get interviewed and have a conversation, just come back to us and let us know, and we'll be able to slot you in. That would be absolutely fantastic. Okay. Another thing that I need to let you know about is an announcement I made in the Facebook group a couple of days ago, actually. And that's the announcement of a very large event that is now on the horizon. Something that we've christened the Chimposium. And it's basically a 2-day live training event online, which is going to take place on September the 16th and September the 17th this year. And we're going to have 16 Mailchimp experts from all around the globe. These are all going to be Mailchimp partners, talking about different aspects of Mailchimp to make sure that you are getting the most from it. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic event. Mailchimp, we've spoken to Mailchimp head office. They're 100% behind it, so they'll be talking about this as well. And we've literally just opened pre-registration. So if you want to make sure that you're, first in the queue when tickets are available and other bits and pieces, just go and visit chimposium.com and put your email address in there, and you'll be added to the list. You'll get an automated email straight away confirming. Good practice there, as it were. And then once we've finalised the ticket prices and how it's all going to be set up, we'll email you. And also, if you're a speaker and you potentially want to speak at that event, we are looking for speakers. There's a speaker page there as well. So go and visit chimposium.com, and I'm sure it's going to be something that, as we get closer to September, we'll be talking a bit more on, and probably have one or two guests onto the Chimp Chat who will actually be speaking. So look out for that. Okay, right. We also want to do a quick section each week of things that have been going on with actual Mailchimp. So developments that Mailchimp, because obviously we're using Mailchimp all the time, kind of like pretty much every day we're logging into a new Mailchimp account. And there's a couple of things that have happened in the last week or so that are worth mentioning for you. Okay, so first of all, Mailchimp have recently launched stores and appointments. And this is Mailchimp's, I say attempt is not the right word. They are going, kind of like really focusing on this and really trying to tap into the e-commerce marketplace. And they're kind of like putting a lot behind it, aren't they? They've really been.
Oh yes, oh, definitely. Especially with their websites as well. You can create a website with Mailchimp now. So
they're really looking at. So this is very much for those of you who who want to get your first steps. So kind of like I don't want to take Mailchimp down, as it were, because there are a lot of advanced tools out there. Shopify, WooCommerce, lots of PrestaShop. There's loads of e-commerce tools. But I think Mailchimp are really targeting this at those people who don't have anything at all and want to take their first steps into an online business. So you can set up a store for free. There's a 2%, I think it is, transaction charge for each of your orders, or you can go up to the kind of like there's a $10 level, which will give you a branded subdomain and reduce the fees from 2% to 1.5%. And there's also other bits and pieces. So certainly if you are a retailer or have products that you want to sell that you've never kind of like put online, as it were, in Mailchimp's traditional style, they've made it very accessible and easy for you to actually do that. So it's an interesting development, isn't it? They're obviously, after the discussions broke down with Shopify, as it were, and they're kind of like, was a conscious uncoupling of that, as it were. They're really, they're obviously, this is something they see as a huge opportunity.
oh yeah, I think so. And also it's very attractive because your email list is then next to your shop. So you don't have to try and integrate several different applications, which can put some people off. So just having your shop next to your email list, almost like an all-in-one tool, makes it very attractive for those that are not that tech savvy. And it's very exciting.
Definitely. So we'll obviously see how that develops over the coming months, and any updates or information that we get from that, we'll let you know. Also, within that, we just mentioned briefly appointments. So this is like a calendar appointment tool where people can book appointments with you and even book paid appointments. So you can use this if you are, say, a massage therapist. You can use it to sell particular appointments, and basically Mailchimp will handle the charging, as it were, and the revenue side of things. So you don't have to. So again, they're offering making it very easy for people to start down that journey. It's not advanced, it's not compared to some of the calendar booking tools that are out there, but it's a good step in the right direction. It's certainly adding another, kind of like arrow to their arsenal of various things to help people get more from their email marketing and just their businesses overall. But one thing we did spot, which we want to make sure that you guys are aware of, is that one of the things that used to be part of the free part of Mailchimp and didn't actually cost, they've actually moved this into the e-commerce part of it. Okay, so what we're talking about here is using a subdomain in Mailchimp. Now, before the stores came in, you used to be able to create a subdomain, connect it up to Mailchimp, and then have your landing pages branded with your domain. Unfortunately, now that is no longer something that you can do without an additional cost. You actually have to purchase the websites and commerce plan, I think, as part of stores. I think that's there.
E-commerce
it's going to cost something like $10 for you to actually do that a month, which is a bit unfortunate, because I know something that we always used to do is when we used to kind of like go through the process of authenticating a domain, at the same time we just create the subdomain, because it literally took 30 seconds. So a bit unfortunate that, and something that probably those of you out there who are starting out and want to have that branded domain, it's probably something that you would like to have had, but it's now going to be a little bit harder. So not ideal, but hey, we are not owned by Mailchimp. We are not endorsed by Mailchimp, although we do love it and use it all the time. So, occasionally we've got to point out there are one or two things that may not be perfect. But just so you're aware, because I know a number of people out there have recently tried to set up subdomains and suddenly realised they can't and wondered why. So we just wanted to mention that. Okay. All right. So the last section that we're going to do before we look at if there's any other questions that have come through from people is just talk about what's been going on in the Facebook group recently. And as is always the case, it's kind of like one of those things where there's people have got specific questions or queries. But the one thing that seems to be coming up every week, all the time, is about deliverability. It's about getting into the inbox. Okay. Now, we're not going to sit here and spend the next half hour talking about deliverability. we want to try and keep this relatively tight, but we'll definitely be focusing on email deliverability in a future session. So make sure that you look out for when that comes out. But just to give people a little bit of a sense of one thing that they can do, which is going to improve their chances of getting into the inbox, Vicky, what would you suggest if they're only to do one thing? What would it be?
Well, that's okay. I had two in my head, but if they're going to do one thing, then I would say authenticate your domain. That is the one thing you have to do. And it might sound scary to some people because, oh, what are these things? What does this mean? Where do I get my domain from? But if you've set up your domain somewhere, you can always get someone to help, and we're always here to help. But that's the first thing that you need to do. And Mailchimp has a help doc as well that walks you through all the steps you need to go through. But yes, that would be the first thing I would say.
Definitely authenticate your domain. I'd almost go as to say, if you go into your Mailchimp account now and you go to the left-hand side and you click the drop-down menu and click on websites, I think it is, and then on domain, under that you'll see the word domains. If you then click on domains, and next to your email domain, the sending domain that you've got, if you don't have the words authenticated, then you are missing out on a big part of getting your emails into the inbox. It's probably the first thing that we look at with every single email account. And if you haven't got it authenticated, you really need to. And as I say, there's lots of information on the Mailchimp website about doing that. So, yeah, 100% agree. First of all, that. And the other thing I'd say is, coming back to what we were talking about previously, have an automated welcome email. Because that welcome email, that first email they're going to get, it's basically going to set the tone. Gmail doesn't look at all of the emails that you send and goes, they're good or bad. It's that clever now. It looks on individual accounts and see how the individual person is reacting to the emails that you're sending. And on that basis, you want to make sure that your emails are getting a good reputation with each person who receives them. And the way you build that reputation is by sending it straight away and getting people to open and engage. And that's why sending it quickly, i.e. automated, and linking it to something that they've done, like filling a form, is going to increase the chances that first email is opened and is going to set you in a positive manner. If you don't, then you're starting off on the back foot. So a couple of tips there. So get your domain authenticated and then make sure that you are having some form of automated welcome email that goes straight away as soon as you sign up. Cool. All right. So I think that kind of like wraps up today. We're just going to have a quick look and see. There's one more question that's come through. I'll let you answer this. So, Vicky, can I use a custom font that is not available in Google Fonts?
Definitely, you can add your own font if you want to add your own font. But the caveat is it will not display at the in your recipient's inbox. So your subscribers will open it and just get Arial. So there is no real benefit in you going through all the hoops to get to use your own custom font. So I would just stick to the standard fonts that you get in Mailchimp, and that way you'll know that what you see is what your subscribers will see in their inbox.
Definitely, yeah. That's ultimately, you got to remember, just because you've sent it, there are 1,000,001 inbox tools: Outlook, iPhone, Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, even. There's so many out there, and they all look at your email slightly differently. And they're all going to display your email based on the information they've got. So if they haven't got your font, and if it's a random or obscure one, they ain't going to have your font. Then they're just going to go, well, I will just slap in Arial and make it kind of like private there. So don't get too bogged down in terms of the fonts that you use in the emails you send, because chances are the majority of people who are receiving your emails, and let's be honest, that's what it's about. It's not about what you're sending. It's about what people are getting. They won't have that font. And as a consequence, all that time and effort you've put in and trying to sort that out just hasn't worked. And I agree completely. So try not to get too clever with your fonts. There's no real need to. Just use the ones that Mailchimp gives you by default, and really you can't go wrong from that point of view.
Yeah, and from that point and not being too clever, really simple emails can do so well when it comes to deliverability and people opening it. It just sometimes just keeping it simple is usually the best. So
definitely, yeah. Something I talk about a lot is usually look at the best email you received in the last week. Mine was from a friend saying we're playing golf on Monday. Didn't have any graphics, didn't have any logos, didn't have anything. It was all about the content.
Yeah.
I think at times it's very easy for us to get very bogged down into whizzy templates and graphics and other bits and pieces. and think about it, when in actual fact, the reason we're using email is to get a message across. And the more that you dilute that message by all this other stuff, the more likely you're going to have a problem, or even your recipient's going to have a problem actually looking at it. So great bit of advice there. Great. Okay, so we're now kind of like coming up and going to wrap up now. So thanks for it for those of you who are watching live. If you're watching this on replay, if you can just kind of like put underneath #replay so that we know that you've actually watched it. Always good to know that people out there are picking up on what we're doing. If there are subjects that you want us to discuss in the future, please put them underneath. And obviously, if you've got any questions or queries, this is what the Mailchimp Answers Facebook group is all about. Go in there, ask your questions, and us or any of the other experts that are in there will point you in the right direction and move you forward. Look out, will be announcements on being able to get this video as a regular podcast as well. So we're going to turn the audio into a podcast, and we're going to put it onto a lot of the other social media channels as well, so keep an eye out for that. But for now, I've been Robin Adams, and I've been here with Vicky Glass, and we'd like to thank you for being part of the biggest and best Mailchimp community out there, and we'll look forward to catching you very soon. Take care, guys. Have a good one.
Definitely. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast really helpful, then here's what you can do next to broaden your understanding of Mailchimp. You can join our free Facebook group. It's the biggest Mailchimp support group in the world. Just search Mailchimp Answers on Facebook. You can take our free Mailchimp Medical to find out the health of your Mailchimp account and what you can do to improve it. Just visit chimpanswers.com and follow the prompts. And of course, you can get in touch with us if you like one-to-one support, advice, tips, or whatever. Just visit chimpanswers.com, which also has got one of the largest resources of Mailchimp blogs and advice available out there to get the information that you need. Thanks again, and we'll see you very soon.